Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Jonathan Voico.
Hello, everybody.
Chris Carr is here.
Hey, everyone.
But most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics that we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, question, or a topic you'd like us to discuss, go ahead and throw it on in right now to our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And here's the good news about the tip link. It's good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So even if you're not watching live, maybe you're listening to our podcast feed a little bit later in the day, either on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Maybe you're watching this show a little bit later when it's not live. If you have a comment or question, you can still send it on into the tip link. And if you send it when we're not live, we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode, provided we deem it appropriate to be addressed on our show. All right, guys. With that down, we got a busy day here today, so let's jump into it with this. You know, I used to work in law. There are big consequences when you make even little mistakes in law. And this one's a doozy. The Michael Jackson biopic, which is set to come out this year, I think other than Avatar, is one of the more automatic billion-dollar films. I think this movie is going to make so much bank. It's crazy. They showed us a preview for it back at CinemaCon in April. It looks really good. Oh yeah, but oopsie. Apparently they made a mistake and had somebody in the movie that there was a legal agreement that they would never put in the movie, and now they got to go back and do massive rewrites and reshoots, hence a delay in the release of the movie. This comes to us from IndieWire. And guys, I'm going to read this a little bit at length because this is one of those things where it's like, how the hell did this happen? That headline reads, Michael Jackson biopic blindsided by a deal with a family member of a molestation accuser facing massive reshoots. All right. Now, follow it along here, because this is like, how you had one job. You had one job. All right, here it is. Certainly, this could have been avoided. According to a bombshell report in Puck, Lionsgate's upcoming Michael Jackson biopic, Michael, faces massive rewrites and reshoots because of a deal that the Jackson estate made years ago with the family of one of the performer's child molestation accusers. Lionsgate did not return calls seeking comment. In November of 2024, Lionsgate announced that Michael, directed by Antoine Fuqua, would be delayed from April of 2025 to release in October 3rd of 2025. According to Puck, the problem lay with an agreement between Jackson's legal team and the family of Jordan Chandler, the then 13-year-old who accused Jackson of molestation in 1993. Okay, that deal, made years before the movie began development, specifically excludes the Chandler family from any movies about Jackson's life. All right? Okay, so they made a deal years ago, the Jackson estate did, that said, hey, if we ever make a movie about Michael and his life, your family won't be a part of it. Simple enough, right? That's pretty clear. Yeah. Oops. However, the Michael script began and ended in 1993 with the Chandler accusations. The one thing you're not supposed to do, we're going to start and end the movie with you. The third act hinges on the legal drama surrounding the Chandler's eventual $20 million settlement. Now, you may be asking yourself, how the hell does that happen? Well, here's how it happened. Puck reported that the Jackson estate, overseen by a guy by the name of John Branca, vetted the script, but somehow overlooked the Chandler agreement. So Lionsgate, Antoine Fuqua, the filmmakers, got the script to Michael and handed it over to the Jackson estate for them to go through and make sure everything was right. And the head of the estate, John Branca, said, yup, everything's good. All right. Overlooked the Chandler agreement, informing the filmmakers of the mistake or the snafu in September of 2024, just as the film entered post-production. Whoops. Hey, you haven't started making that movie yet, have you? Yeah, we finished shooting. Why? We're doing post-production now.
Well,
there might have been something I should have told you. Fuqua, producer Graham King, and writer John Logan are now seeking approval for the script changes from Lionsgate and Universal. Puck adds that the Jackson estate, because this was their mistake, will cover the costs of any reshoots. The film already had a $150 million budget. All right. What? Okay. First of all, it needs to be pointed out here that none of this is Lionsgate's or Antoine Fuqua's fault. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They, along the way of developing the movie, they would go to the Jackson estate and say, is everything in this above board? Is everything in this what we are allowed to say or do? And it was the Jackson estate who got the script, read it over, and said, yuppers, you're good.
I really hope they put yuppers on legal header
right in the legal document.
I think that's beautiful. Who's their general counsel? Me?
Your Honor, they gave us the yuppers. Overruled. So the story, according to this, starts with the kid who's not supposed to be in the movie and ends with the kid who's not supposed to be in the movie and whose third act revolves around the court circus that was also not supposed to be in the movie. I don't understand how something like this can happen because they had shot the movie.
Yeah.
They spent the money. They're in post-production. And now for the estate to come back and say, oh, I forgot about this one thing. You're not supposed to have this kid in it. What?
That is a central character throughout the entire narrative of this film.
It's almost like, remember the Tommy and Pamela show they did on HBO? Mm-hmm. It's like the Pamela Anderson's lawyers got back to HBO and said, was it on HBO? I can't remember. It said, sure. We forgot. We have a legal agreement that we wouldn't put Tommy Lee in any movie about Pamela's life from now on. Oops. And this is going to cost, look, and it's fine that the Jackson estate is going to cover the cost of the reshoots. That's fine. But now Lionsgate and this movie have lost time, and time costs you money. And if it sounds like they're still trying to get script approval, I don't know that this thing comes out this year at all. This is a mess. This is incompetence. This should not happen. Anyway, Chris, you heard about this story. What's your first takeaway from it?
It's so messy and dumb. It's dumb. I mean, we talk about media literacy all the time. I'm concerned about actual literacy here. If you read the script, I don't think this person did their job at all. Because if you read the script, you'd go, oh, yeah, there's that. Oh, yeah, there's that. One of my friends is a lawyer, and his only job right now is to go through contracts and highlight violations before they're finalized. This is his only job, right? He's not the head of somebody's estate. That's just what he does. So this guy really messed up. I was going to say, I'm going to call Peter and be like, I think something's open for you. This is just silly. And I'm a big fan of, in your day-to-day life, of taking risks and ask for forgiveness, not permission. Not here. No, it's an actual legal issue that you have signed, sealed, and delivered money on already. This is just so lazy and so incompetent. And I'm so confused how this film moved forward, and also ultimately what the story is going to be here now too, because if that was part of a 3-act structure. And that was your third act. Yeah. I'm very intrigued to see how they play this now.
One thing I'm curious about, and it's not putting any kind of onus on the family, but if I was involved, I would have been like, I hear there's a movie coming out through my legal whatever channels. I'd be like, just want to make sure, as per our agreement, that my son isn't mentioned.
Yeah. But you, like you said, but you don't that's have to do not that. On them. No. No, we already covered that. So I know they're not going to put my son in it because we have an agreement. And Jonathan raised up something. This is a minor thing, but it's a really interesting thing. John raised a really good point before we started the show today. There is some kid probably 15 or 16-year-old actor playing a 13-year-old. There's some kid who got their big break in Hollywood that they were going to appear in this guaranteed billion-dollar film, Michael, playing this role. And sorry, kid, you're out of the movie. Sorry. I know we told you. We made all your dreams come true. Give it back.
Gonna pull the old Chris Aru and delete you out of the movie.
You are.
Oh, no. I hate that that's the way I'm a verb.
It is now forever
Oh,
known
man.
as Alice
Yeah, I know.
Theroux.
It's just, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Are you getting cut from a movie? They Chris Card you.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, I'm laughing about it, but I feel terrible for that kid.
Yeah.
You're going to be this big star, and then it's taken away. You know what? I'm sure Lionsgate will do right by whoever this kid is and give them a role in something else down the ride. But I mean, my God, what a mess. And you know what? I love the way IndieWire started the article, because it needs to be said first. The very first words of the article, certainly this could have been avoided.
They're going to open up the movie with this. It's going to be like text. Certainly
This is now a part of the movie. I mean, there's going to be a movie about the making of Michael now.
Yeah.
Or at least a Paramount Plus series of some
It's called
kind.
Making Michael.
And again, I need to emphasize again, none of this was Lionsgate's fault. And none of this was the filmmaker's fault. It certainly wasn't Antoine Fuqua's fault. They did the right procedure. They did what they were supposed to do. It was the Jackson estate that botched this terribly. And again, listen, there's nothing in here that says the film's going to be delayed even more. But if the article is accurate and they are still at the point where they still have to get approval for the script rewrites, I don't see how this thing comes out in 2025.
Mr. Pineapple summarizes this perfectly.
What's that?
Such ungrouped poop.
Such ungrouped poop. All over the place. Not done right.
What is the point of this story aside from talking about just the shiny version of Michael Jackson then if you don't get into the controversy?
Well,
that's what I'm confused by.
I mean,
you could probably get into it without naming anyone.
Sure.
I mean, I never knew that all this was going to be a major part of the film, right?
I figured it would be.
And I didn't know if they would or not. And I actually respect the fact that the filmmakers and the estate were going to make that a part of the movie.
Yeah.
I actually respect that they were going to do that. Oopsie. I guess they can't anymore. Or they go to another family that they made a settlement with or something like that and said, hey, I know this is a painful period of your life. We settled out of court. We still deny that Michael ever did anything and all that kind of stuff. But do you want to make an extra $10 million? Can we use your family history in this? I mean, it'll bring up I'm sure, a very awkward time for you guys, but another $15 million. I mean, I don't know what you do.
Yeah.
It is a horrible situation that easily could have been avoided. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this entire situation? A $100+ million movie has to go back and redo its entire third act, change their narrative and all that kind of stuff because somebody's lawyer didn't do their job. It's crazy to me. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. By the way, as a side note, I'm seeing a whole bunch of people in the live chat saying, well, can't you just change the name of the kid? That won't do it.
That's why there's that whole disclaimer at the end of movies too, talking about how if this is reflective of real life
it's
incidents and
coincidental,
anything,
right? You would get your ass handed to you in court.
Exactly.
That family would take Lionsgate, the Jackson State to court so fast. Oh, no. See, it's not Chandler. It's Mickey Spamicky. That's the name of the kid. That family is going to take them to court and say that is clearly our kid. You don't just get to, everybody thinks there's these little loopholes.
Right now.
No, you're going to put this in front of a judge and you're going to lose $500 million. So no, they can't just go into the movie and change the name of the kid. They can't do that.
Cannot win for losing.
Yeah, they're going to say a court will say you are that is definitely that kid. You just changed the name. So anyway, all right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, every once in a while, I don't like to talk about really unfounded rumors that are floating around, but so many of them are out there, and more trades are kind of picking them up and running with them. So I thought we'd create a little subgenre of a news story on the John Campea Show that we call the rumor mill. And man, there's a rumor out there today that is floating around. This one being reported on comicbookmovie.com. Now, you guys remember that Cynthia Erivo, star of Wicked, just nominated for Best Actress at the Academy Awards, good on her, said she would love to play Storm in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the X-Men.
Yeah.
But now there's a report going around saying that X-Men Marvel Studios rumored to be eyeing former Thunderbolt star Ayo Edebiri, star of The Bear, to play the MCU's Storm. Now, when it says former Thunderbolt star, what do you mean? The Thunderbolts hasn't even come out. She was going to be in it, much like Steven Yeun was going to be in it, but eventually had to drop out of it due to scheduling conflicts. So she's not in it. She is an Emmy award-winning actress. She was the voice of April in the latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that everybody liked her in. She did a bit in Abbott Elementary. And she's an award-winning actress, and she's great. Now, recently, you guys might remember that there was a report going around that said Sadie Sink from Stranger Things might be the person they're looking at Jean Grey. Having somebody like Ayo would be a little bit closer in age than a Cynthia Erivo would. Now, Ayo, although she may come across like a senior at college, she's 29 years old. Yeah. Like she's a full grown-ass adult at this point. Anyway, it needs to be pointed out. The reason this is being talked about here in the rumor mill segment is because there is no reliable source that's actually claiming this. All right, you guys have probably seen the reports floating around some of your favorite websites, but it all comes from the same place, which is a hit or miss Twitter account. So I'm not saying it's valid. I'm not saying it's invalid. I'm just saying take this one with a massive healthy dose of skepticism, which is why we're putting it under rumor mill. All right, first question. Do I like the idea of Edebiri playing Storm? I do. I really do. You know me, guys. The first qualification to me is, are you getting a talented performer? This is an award-winning actress. She would kill it. I have no doubt she would kill it. Now, I've had a friend of mine, I'm going to read what a friend of mine texted me a little bit earlier about this, saying, Ayo is terrible casting for Storm. She plays understated, quirky girl parts. Okay, yes, but that's what you've seen her play. She is a performer. She's an award-winning. I have no doubt she could do this and do it very well. So would I be down for it? Absolutely. Do I think there's any validity to it? I don't know that there's no validity to it, but I don't believe there's any validity to it. I do not believe, and again, I could be right, I could be wrong, but I don't believe that 6 months from now, when actual casting announcements start being made, I don't think we're going to hear Ayo's name mentioned. I think they're probably going to go in another direction. Now, again, if it does turn out to be her, I'm all for it. I'm all on board. But as far as this rumor mill, I say this one goes out with the sawdust. I don't think this one works. Chris, two separate questions here. Number one, do you like the idea of Edebiri as Marvel's new Storm? Number two, do you buy the report and the rumor that she's going to be the Storm character? What do you think?
I like the idea of I think it's such an interesting role for her, and we haven't seen something like this from her. The most physical I've seen her get is in Bottoms, and that movie's great. So I think it'd be fun, and I think she's tremendously gifted. An excellent director as well. Her work on The Bear this past season was phenomenal. Do I think this is true? Probably not. I feel like a whole bunch of names are being thrown around right now. And I think a lot of people are clinging to this idea because of that age difference thing. I think a lot of other people are pushing this rumor because, this makes more sense if they're contemporaries to have Ayo and Sadie being in here versus, Sadie and Cynthia or any other person. Anytime we have any kind of Marvel movie coming up, we have so much speculation about who it is. I remember people were adamantly telling us that Adam Driver was going to be Mr. Fantastic. Yeah. That was a signed deal, that was done. And obviously that is not how that turned out. So anytime there's rumors about this kind of stuff, I usually take it with a grain of salt and I wait till the ink is dried on the paper. All
right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Ayo Edebiri is being rumored in today's rumor mill about playing the new Storm. I would love it if that turned out to be the case, but I don't think it's going to turn out to be the case. Who knows? We'll find out. What do you guys think about that? Would you be down for seeing her play the character? She is an award-winning actress. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Of course, yesterday, the Oscar nominations came out. Inexplicably, and I'm not going to rant about it, probably one of the most mediocre, forgettable films I've seen in a while, Emilia Perez, got 13 nominations. It's not a good movie, folks. Anyway, that aside, there were the expected every year when the Oscar nominations come out, the call of snub. Who got snubbed? And there were two major ones. I talked about this on Open Mic last night a little bit. One of them was Superman not getting nominated for Best Documentary. And a lot of people are upset about that. Now, the grain of salt we got to take with that is most people who are calling that a snub haven't seen any of the actual nominated documentaries. I've only seen one. I've seen Porcelain War. That's it. I have not seen the other four. So my point about Superman was, I am not in a position to say Superman got snubbed because I didn't see those other films to say that they were definitively worse than Superman. Yeah. And that is my challenge to my fellow film fans, because I bet 95% of my fellow film fans have not seen any of those documentaries either. Anyway, but the snub. And remember, I only qualify as snub as somebody who I believe not only should be nominated, but legitimately has a shot to win. If there's somebody that could have got a nomination, but we all know they wouldn't have won, I don't call that a snub. A snub should be used, the word snub should be used in the most extreme circumstances. But the snub was the lack of the name Denis Villeneuve for the name for Best Director. And that's the one that now, it is not as egregious as when Ben Affleck didn't get nominated for Best Director after he won Best Director at the Directors Guild Awards and his damn movie won Best Picture at the Academy Awards, and yet he didn't get nominated for Best Director. I'll never understand that. I'll never understand that. So that one was worse. But this might be second to me. The absolute jaw-dropping cinematic masterpiece that he did with this Dune movie, and for him to not get nominated, it to me is crazy, especially when the director of a subpar movie did get nominated. That to me is crazy. But listen, we all have those, right? I have them, you have them. Doesn't mean other people think so as well. But apparently I'm not the only one who thought the Denis Villeneuve lack of a nomination is puzzling. Headlines like this one. It seems everyone in Hollywood is backing Denis Villeneuve after his Oscar snub, including Spider-Verse's Chris Miller, who said, "There were many films that had great directing this year, but what Denis did was masterful." And we talked a little bit the other day about Josh Brolin went out and said, "I guess I'm retiring from acting because this makes no sense." I talked to a friend of mine at one of the major trades, I'm not going to say which one, last night, who said the whole industry right now is talking about this. What this friend of mine told me was everybody understood, as I did, as you guys did too, going into Oscar season, that recency bias, Dune 2 wasn't getting the full attention that it deserved. But he said everybody in the industry completely kind of expected that when the nominations came out, Denis Villeneuve's name was going to be on there. And it wasn't. Not that everybody was expecting him to win, but everybody was expecting that name to be on there. And this friend of mine at this major trade said, this is what the industry's talking about today, is everybody's confounded and confused about how he didn't get nominated for that. Now, does this somebody wrote to me, says, "John, does this delegitimize the Oscars for you?" No. Listen, it's 7,000, diverse and different people with diverse and different opinions, going through a preferential ballot process of creating a list of nominees and blah, blah. And hey, stuff like that can happen. It can happen. It's not the end of the world. But just because it's not the end of the world doesn't mean that it wasn't a mistake. And it was a mistake. And even people in the industry are coming out and talking about it now. Anyway, Chris, I know you are not as big of a Dune fan as say I am or some other people are. And even though the momentum with Dune seemed to not be all that strong with the rest of the award season stuff, were you surprised to see that Denis Villeneuve was not nominated for director? How did you see this?
Oh, very. I was very surprised. And like you said, this is not the movie that I am obsessed with, like so many other people. This franchise, I think, is very well executed and very beautiful and interesting, but it's not something that I continually gravitate towards. But objectively, these are really well done movies. And the second film makes me not hate the first movie. I know you guys, I know you get annoyed with it, but it was for me boring Tremors. And that second film, I went, okay, I get this now a bit more. If I had seen the two together, if this had been a little closer, or maybe we had a little bit from movie 2 and movie 1, I would have probably liked this a lot more. But that is to say, this film objectively ticks a lot of boxes on what great filmmaking is. I know we talk about the subjectivity of films all the time, but this one, I think universally, even if you do not fully love the movie, like myself, you can go, but that is an incredibly well-made film. And there is such a maestro behind it. And for Denis to not be nominated was really shocking to me, because I feel like this movie, too, just encompasses what Hollywood films are capable of.
Yeah.
And I find it very, very jarring that he's not on the list. That one really, really was bonkers to me.
I still to this day, I know this is slightly off topic. I still to this day I don't know what happened with the Ben Affleck thing when he did Argo.
Oh, that was wild.
Like literally, he wasn't just nominated in every other award ceremony. He won every other award ceremony. He was like, again, the biggest one, the Directors Guild of America. He won Best Director of the Year for Argo. Argo was nominated and won Best Picture of the Year, and yet he wasn't nominated. Listen, if you guys want to know more, I actually produced a video a number of years ago when I was back at Complex and Collider about how the preferential ballot stuff works, and it's an intricate process. But clearly there is some way that certain names fall through the cracks in the preferential ballot system that I don't know if that's goes to do with it. But anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, maybe you think there was a bigger snub at the Oscars this year. I think this is the biggest one on my radar, but whatever you think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still have to talk about another kind of ringing in the sky of the coming death of physical media as Sony has stopped making Blu-ray discs. Also, Captain America 4, all those reports going around that it costs $300 million to make, $350 million to make, $400 million to make. Well, those have been debunked. We're going to talk about that and a couple other things. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at PrizePicks. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, PrizePicks. Are you guys like me, both a movie and a sports fan? Well, if so, then you know that the playoffs are here and it's now or never. If you love football and want to add some real excitement to the games, let me tell you about PrizePicks, the best place for your daily fantasy sports. So here's how it works. It's super simple. You just pick more or less on player projections. Think Patrick Mahomes will throw more than 1.5 touchdowns this week, or maybe Lamar Jackson will get over 250 passing yards. Make your picks in less than a minute and take your shot at winning up to 1,000 times your cash. Ann and I have been having a blast using PrizePicks every weekend. It's simple, it's fun, and it just makes watching the games that much more exciting. Plus, PrizePicks puts you first. With easy, fast, secure withdrawals, you can get your winnings in as little as 15 minutes, and they make deposits even easier. And right now, if you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So don't wait. Download the app today and use the code CAMPEA to get $50 instantly after playing your first $5 lineup. That's right, play for just $5 and you get a $50 bonus instantly. PrizePicks, run your game. And thank you to our friends at PrizePicks for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this. It's a sad thing, but I feel like every couple of months, a new story comes out that kind of is another signpost on the highway of life that the role of physical media continues to die and continues to die out. This new one, after 18 years, Sony's recordable Blu-ray media production draws to a close. It will shut its last factory in February. They write the following. Sony has announced it will end its recordable Blu-ray disc media production in February, marking the end of its nearly 2-decade run. This end of production announcement also affects mini discs for recording, MD data for recording, and mini DV cassettes. I didn't even know they still made those. When I first got into like video and stuff like that, I had a mini DV camera. I didn't know they still made those things. Anyway, the company ended the production of recordable consumer Blu-ray and optical discs in mid-2024, indicating it would retain production lines for business and corporate clients until it became unprofitable. However, as the general public prefers streaming services over physical media, commercial sales have quickly become insufficient to sustain Sony's optical media business. All right. Now, the first thing that needs to be pointed out about this story is that they are not saying Sony is stopping making Blu-ray players, although they will soon, but they're still making Blu-ray players, and you will still be able to buy single-use like Blu-ray discs that have movies on them. But one of the big things about that physical media collectors like to do is to create their own discs. And Sony is the #1 world producer of recordable Blu-ray media. And now that's going away. Now, the two biggest Blu-ray making players in the world, companies that made Blu-ray players, have already gotten out of making Blu-ray. LG already announced that they are stopping production of making Blu-ray players. Samsung, which was the world's leader in Blu-ray player production, already discontinued making Blu-ray players. Oppo was one of the world's leading manufacturers of Blu-ray players. They are already out. The only two significant players in the game that still produce Blu-ray players are Sony and Panasonic, and both have kind of indicated that that may be drawing to a close at some point, as sales of all these devices continue to decline and go lower and lower and lower. But again, the media itself to be used for backups, burning, all that kind of stuff. You know, Jonathan, I remember back in the day, I would walk into Future Shop in Canada, kind of the equivalent of Best Buy here.
Oh.
Future Shop.
It's called Future Shop. I think Best Buy bought out Future Shop, actually. And walking in, when I would walk into a Best Buy / Future Shop, one of the very first things that always used to be right there near the entrance were these big giant spools of either blank DVD discs or Blu-ray discs.
I used to go nuts on those at Costco. I was like, yes, 500.
And then I realized I didn't use 498 of them.
Yeah.
But hey, I
Sat there for
had
10
them.
years.
I had them. You know, a lot of people use that. The people who are really hardcore into physical media will use those to create backups. So burn the digital versions of the movies they have, backup stuff like that. So this is just the next thing of Sony now moving out. And once Sony moves fully out, because I believe before the end of this year, let's make a mark on this. We'll come back to this. I believe before the end of 2025 will come the announcement that Sony is going to stop production of their Blu-ray players as well. That's coming. They've already started to phase it out of their PlayStation machines, right? Like we've already seen that. They've already started that process. So yeah, and then it's only going to be Panasonic, and then Panasonic will be gone, and then the whole thing will be dead. It's unfortunate. And if you may not think that just ending the production of the re-recordable Blu-ray media is a big thing, think again. It's a really, really big thing to this whole stuff. Anyway, Chris, you see this minor road bump or yet another major sign that physical media is kind of on its way out?
I feel like it's another sign, which is so sad. We got to check on Rob. We got to text him. I am old enough that when I moved here to Los Angeles in 2013, I had to get those big spools of blank discs so I could burn all of my actor footage on it when I would do my cold submissions to agencies. And so that's how you had to get all of your media out. I mean, there's always pros and cons to certain things, right? It's nice, at least from an actor's perspective, that we don't have to do stuff like that anymore. We don't have physical headshots anymore. We don't have to bring physical media with us to show to an agent. We don't have to make those expenses. The downside is that art is going to be lost. At some point, I mean, it's already happening, right? With streaming networks where we see things they get removed from the streaming service and now they no longer exist and will never be seen again. And that's what I think is so sad when we see these little chinks in the armor coming around of, I think if you want to make your DVD collection physical, you should be able to. But I understand that companies don't want to spend that money. It's an issue of cost versus heart, honestly, for me. I get it. I get why these people are discontinuing things. I get why we're not selling Blu-rays anymore or Blu-ray burners or anything like that. I get it, but it still is just, it's just sad. It's a bummer that you can't physically hold a thing that you love.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I am somebody who moved away from physical media, like, I want to say 10 years ago, maybe 6-7 years ago, I moved away from it. But there are advantages to physical media that are undeniable, right? Like, to me personally, I think the advantages of not having physical outweigh the advantage of physical, me personally, but there are some undeniable advantages to physical, right? Like, for example, let's say you were one of the 6 people on the planet who liked Willow, the Disney Plus series.
Okay, I was like, I like the movie.
Yeah, not the movie. I mean, the Disney Plus series. Guess what? Disney Plus took it down. You can't find it anywhere. And if you had a physical copy of it, then you have it forever. And that's one of the, maybe streaming prices start to get to the point that are untenable. Well, you got your physical copy.
Right.
Guess what? Doesn't cost you anything every month to own that physical copy.
Exactly.
There are absolutely advantages to it. To me, the disadvantages outweigh the advantages. But I love the fact that friends of mine, including Rob, can have this big, massive physical media collection. Like, I don't want physical media to go away. I love it for people who enjoy using it. I just don't use it myself. And, when I point out, whenever we do these stories, I need to make clear, I am never saying that physical media should go away. Not at all. The question isn't should. The story is going away. Rob brings it up all the time. The declining sales of physical media are astounding year over year, how fast it drops.
Which means people that are physical media, like hard, like buffs, they have to obviously be dropping off as well for it to be dropping that much.
There are convert. That it definitely means there are convert people who are very hardcore physical media that are converting themselves and not doing it. And with that happening, more and more manufacturers stop making the stuff. More and more manufacturers stop making the stuff. Less and less people buy it, and it becomes cyclical. So listen, there are still vinyl record players around. It's not a real part of the industry anymore, but it's still there. And I'm sure there will always be a niche part of physical media for people, but I think this is yet another big sign that niche is all it's going to be, probably in the next couple of years. I am curious, Chris, let me ask you this. I might have asked you this before, but what was the last Blu-ray or DVD you bought?
Ooh.
Got to think about it, don't you?
Well, I was gifted Muppet Christmas Carol recently.
That's a good gift.
So that I could get the bonus feature of when the screen goes blank, the penguins come in and sing. But the last one I bought was probably World's End, the Edgar Wright film with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Very nice. Now, the last piece of physical media I received was about a year ago. Rob got me this. My all-time favorite horror film. It is a laser disc, a remastered laser disc. I keep this in the office. This is my now, I unfortunately do not have a laser disc player, but Rob bought me this. My all-time favorite horror movie, American Werewolf from London. The last one I bought. Oh my God.
My last one was the 4K reissue of Talking Heads Stop Making Sense concert.
Ooh.
But what was the last movie you got?
Well, that was a movie.
That was a movie.
But
right.
I mean, it was a concert movie. But yeah. But then the last movie, like, I can't remember.
I can't even remember what the last one I bought was. It's actually kind of been that long. I mean, literally, again, this is the stream guy. My entire movie collection, I have right on here.
I'd have to go.
I can. I'm thinking about taking a train trip.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually thinking about taking a train trip across the country. I've been watching some videos on YouTube and it looks like a lot of fun.
It is.
And guess what?
So
They're fun.
Yeah.
When I get on that train, I have my entire media collection available to me right here.
You should do it. I did all the way up to Seattle from LA. It was great.
Oh, I want to do that one.
I'm thinking about taking it to Canada,
dang.
like to Toronto.
Yeah.
Fun.
Like the 70-hour train trip. I'm thinking about taking it. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? Sony now is starting to get one foot out the door of its physical media business. Do you think it's inevitable that it's all going to be out? I mean, LG's already out, Oppo's already out, Samsung's already out. The last two standing right now seem to be Sony and Panasonic, and Sony seems to be moving away from it. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's talk about this, shall we? You know, it's always amazing to me that in the darker corners of fandom, there are people who not only want movies to fail, which I'll never understand that. There's never been a movie that's come out that I've wanted it to fail. I always hope everything's good. And, you know, if I watch and I think it sucks, I think it sucks, but I hope you like it, right? But there are always those things where try to create narratives that something is failing or whatever. And you guys have probably seen this going around. That Captain America 4, of course it's Marvel, so it's going to have its haters, understandably so. Captain America 4, you've probably seen this. At first it was $275 million to make it. Shortly after that, the rumor evolved to being, did you see it's cost $300 million to make Captain America 4. That was in fashion for a couple of days. And then in forums and on websites, you start saying Captain America 4 cost $350 million to make. And the number just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, you guys might remember about a month or so ago, I said on the show, I talked to somebody and they said those reports are wildly exaggerated. They didn't give me an actual number, but they said, you know, those numbers are wildly exaggerated. And I talked about that on the show a little bit. I said, I don't know what the actual cost is going to be. I imagine, Chris, that it would have been a little high because they did a lot of reshoots.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. Well, now it's come out what they actually spent on the movie. It's $180 million. It's $180 million. This comes to us. The Hollywood Reporter reported, by the way, Captain America Brave New World's budget is way less than original rumors. The budget for Captain America Brave New World has been revealed, and while still as large as fans has come to expect from a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, it is far lower than the ones that have been predicted earlier. The release of Captain America 4 is fast approaching, and predictions have already been made about the film's opening weekend box office, heightening fans' interest in the production budget for the new MCU blockbuster. According to a report by The Hollywood Reporter, the overall budget for Captain America Brave New World stands at approximately $180 million. Make no mistake, that is still a very expensive movie, right? No one's calling this a mid-level indie film. This is an expensive movie. This is comparatively lower than the previous predictions by World of Real, which started the rumors out at 275 with an extra 100 million starting on reshoots. Then eventually that all blew up to $350 million. And I even saw a couple of places suggesting it was like $400 million.
Well, you got to outdo the other guy.
Yeah. Just to create a negative atmosphere around the film. So now we know what this movie cost. It cost $180 million to make. Still an expensive movie. Some may argue that is still too expensive. And it's hard to argue with you that maybe it is still too expensive. It still means it's got to make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you figure they put a lot of money. I'm going to guess, let me guess high, I guess a little bit high. Let's say they spend $100 million in the marketing, which is probably more than they've spent, but let's for argument's sake say $100 million. Well, now you got $180 million budget, $100 million for marketing. That's $280 million. Hell, let's even round it up to 300.
All right.
Now you've got a movie that needs to make $450 million at the box office just to break even. Why 450? Well, because remember, the movie theaters keep 1/3. So if the movie makes 450 million, that means the theaters keep 150 million. There's 300 million left, and there's your 180 plus 100, rounding up to $300 million. So roughly that's a lot of money. That's a massive hit for some other movies. So it's still expensive. But it debunks this whole thing that the movie had to make like $600 million just to break even and stuff like that. So, and now look, the reports have come out again. It seems like they've raised estimates now for how much this movie's going to make opening weekend. It went from 85 to 95. Now they've adjusted it and said 90 to 95. And if it does open at 90 to 95, they should be very happy with that.
Yeah.
I think they pop bottles. I think that's a good, strong opening for a movie like this, especially considering it's a brand new Captain America. I'm still, Chris, a little skeptical that it'll actually make that much. I'm going to guess it makes closer to 80, which is still pretty solid. I mean, it's
Still
more
a good
than
number.
It's still more than what Sonic made in its opening weekend. So it'd still be good. I'm skeptical that it makes 90 to 95. Maybe it makes more than that. I don't know. Anyway, you hear about all this. Number one, what do you think about the report? Number two, how well do you think Captain America 4 can do?
I'm actually pretty optimistic about how Captain America can do. I think that we've got a nice little bit of momentum going here. I think the trailers have done this film a service so far of getting people excited. We now know that this is a budget that's more akin to the Winter Soldier budget, which was 170, I believe. So I feel like right now everything is moving as this should. I think the report, I feel like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like these numbers get thrown around and sometimes we like to see the popular kid fail. Sometimes we like to see Goliath fall. And trust me, Marvel's been doing that on its own, guys, with the content. It's not all been grade A Marvel content. So I don't think we need to inflate these budgets that often already are inflated. I don't know how that number got falsified in the first place. I'm wondering if that was just like rumor.
Well, it came from a place that wasn't the most reliable place, but
then it just got momentum.
People loved seeing that big number and started running with it, and then that number started getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Just all snowballed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's great to have the actual data so that we all can know, okay, well, this is the benchmark that this movie actually does need to hit in order for this to be a success. And once again, I just want to remind everyone too, we all want movies to succeed. Ultimately,
not all of us.
Well, like we should. Everyone in this room,
Absolutely
we want films to do well. I never understand the rooting against a film. You can just not go see it. I know I've been vocal in the past about, that's probably not a movie I'm going to see. Oh, that's not really my genre. But I really hope that they do well. So for anyone who's, Team DC versus Marvel, or, I only like to watch art house films instead of superhero movies. When movies do well, all movies get to benefit. We love when movies do well in a movie theater. So I just wanted to pop on my soapbox for a minute to say that. And maybe we fully read articles. Once again, I feel like I'm saying this every single week. Read full articles, follow up on sources that are reliable, and double check everything before then you also perpetuate those things and snowball these
What I'm hearing
figures.
is post for clicks.
Oh, that is what I said,
Okay.
actually. Yeah, thank you. The
Anyway,
translation
guys,
is really good.
Question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, obviously the budget ended up being much more reasonable, although still quite expensive, make no mistake about it, than originally reported. They're saying this movie can make up to $95 million this opening weekend. If it does, that's great. I still remain a little skeptical that it can do that, but I am looking forward to seeing it. I've already got my tickets. How big do you think it can be? Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your comments, questions, and topics. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at BetterHelp. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. Every January is like a blank slate, 365 pages waiting for you to fill them in. Perhaps it's time to rewrite a chapter that's been holding you back. Life isn't about resolutions that fade, it's about becoming the author of your own life story. And in writing that story, therapy can be your trusted editorial partner, helping you craft meaningful chapters, build resilience, and empower you to live the life that you've always envisioned. Therapy can help you learn positive coping skills, set boundaries, and become your best self. And that's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp offers fully online therapy, making it affordable and convenient. With over 30,000 licensed therapists specializing in diverse needs, you can find somebody who truly understands your story. You can even switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. I often hear from some of our viewers who talk about having some real struggles and challenges over the last couple of years. Well, listen, we commit ourselves to getting more physically strong and healthy by going to the gym. It's time for us to commit to getting more mentally and emotionally strong by getting involved in therapy. So write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Campea today and get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at BetterHelp for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move over now to the most important part of our show, taking your thoughts, comments, and questions. Jonathan, what we got up first?
Garden Variety says, on the concept of not having a Star Wars movie in 6 years, worse for the Lucasfilms is that they have shown they have absolutely no plan for where the Star Wars movie universe is going. Each failed plan is all over the place and nowhere at once.
I made an editorial video about this a long time ago about, at the end of the day, the core problem is there was no plan. No plan. And that became apparent just with the sequel trilogy, that they didn't actually have a roadmap. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't believe for a second that when they started making The Force Awakens, which I still contend is quite a fun, good movie. Me and Schnepp would go see it at least a couple times every week. We'd go walk across the street to the Burbank 16 and go and watch it again. We had a great time with it. But I'm not saying that once they started production on the Force Awakens, that they should have had completed scripts for all 3 movies right off the bat. I'm not saying that. But what they should have had before starting production was a roadmap.
Yeah.
With a little bit of flexibility between each movie to pivot a little bit if they needed to, depending on what worked and didn't work with the previous movie, right? But that you basically had a roadmap and a plan.
Yeah.
They had none of it.
Nope.
And to this day, they have no plan. Like, even with some of the good sounding announcements, it all sounds just like an individual string of spaghetti being thrown against the wall. And it still doesn't sound like they have a coherent plan for their universe. And my biggest thing about why, listen, I always feel like I have to emphasize this. I am a huge admirer of Kathleen Kennedy's. Steven Spielberg says she's the greatest producer in Hollywood history, and he's the greatest filmmaker in Hollywood history, so he would know. Her resume is unprecedented. When you look at her list of films and her filmography as a producer, it's impeccable. Mm-hmm. But being a producer and being the head of a studio are 2 different jobs. And just because you're good at one doesn't mean you're good at the other. And her 2 main responsibilities, I've said, that the head of Lucasfilm needs to have is, in no particular order, number 1, make sure you are bringing on the right talent that is completely on the same page as you and you are on the same page with them. Fail. Over and 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 over again are things about this movie's coming. No, it's not. This person's writing. No, they're not. This person's directing. No, they're not. Because Kathleen Kennedy has objectively failed time and time and time and time and time and time and time again to make sure that the people she's getting into creative bed with are on the same page as her and she's on the same page with them. Anyway, the second thing is to plan out the universe. Have a plan. You want to know a good example of this? Look at Kevin Feige. When Disney bought Fox, everybody was, X-Men are coming next month. And Kevin Feige said, no. I've got the next 5 years planned out. And we are not going to change our plans. Now, he's had to pivot a little bit here and there when things are called, but overall, he said, I've got this overall roadmap and we're good 5 years down the road in that planning. So give us like 5 years and then you're going to start seeing some X-Men stuff there. That is the complete antithesis of what Kathleen Kennedy's done. There's been no plan. And it's the most frustrating thing. So Kathleen Kennedy's failure on those 2 main, most important responsibilities as being the head of Lucasfilm is what, and listen, I'm not taking it away that they've had some wins. Andor, great win. Rogue One, great win. Mandalorian, great win. Skeleton Crew, great win. I'm not taking the wins away from them at all. There have been wins. I'm not suggesting there haven't been. Mm-hmm. But the problems outweigh the victories. And she needed to go a long time ago. Anyway. All right, what's next?
All right, we got some support from Anonymous. And then
thank you, Anonymous.
And then Ernie says, hi, first time writing in. I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana. And we had a blizzard on Tuesday. Stuck in the house since. You mentioned the Creature Commandos is heartbreaking. Reminds me of the end of Attack on Titan. Made me feel like we're doomed. Thank you all for everything.
I mean, one of the great things though about Creature Commandos was there, particularly the Weasel episode. I mean, there was definite heartbreak stuff in it, but it didn't just wallow in despair and heartbreak, right? It then moves on to Weasel's okay still, and the world moves on, and there are victories to be had, and all that kind of stuff, right? I still remember watching, and I know this is what you're asking about, but man, I know I bring this up every once in a while, but dude, Grave of the Fireflies. I can never watch that movie again. It's a brilliant put together movie. It's a wonderful movie. But by the end of it, I wanted to put my head in a microwave. Like, it was so utterly depressing and so utterly sad. And that's so it's Creature Commandos found a way to have really breaking stuff in it, but also move on from it. So hopefully that is something that James Gunn can continue to do. You know, be bright and hopeful and joyful and optimistic, but also have the heavier stuff and some of the heartbreaking stuff as well. Make sure you balance them both out. All right, what's next?
Okay, Duck Duck says, Buenas tardes. The next movie on my poster is Spirited Away. I was really scared of this movie because of what Grave of the Fireflies did to me.
Look at that. I swear I did not know this was the next question.
But I did. This was a lot less traumatic.
Yes.
I loved it. Beautiful and creative. Even the villains, I can't help but love. You know, this movie does stick with you. I love the main character. She stays true to herself, but also gains courage and grows up while surrounded by strange new people who have left religious, spiritual lifestyles in exchange for more greedy, modern ones. No Face is easily influenced like a young kid, 9 out of 10.
Yeah, Spirited Away is wonderful. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, but like every year at that Burbank 16, don't they do like they play that movie like every year?
Yeah,
don't they?
Fandango kind of runs it, but yeah, it's not just that movie. They do a Miyazaki
right,
thing.
like a whole film
month
festival every year, right?
Yeah.
And it's just one of the great things they do. And like that's part of the reason why when I saw Grave of the Fireflies, I wasn't ready for it. Like whether you're watching like Howl's Moving Castle,
right,
or
Princess Mononoke,
Princess Mononoke, or things like that, like they'll definitely balance in heartbreak, tragedy, but it's they also balance it out a bit, and so I wasn't prepared for Grave of the Fireflies.
You're like,
man.
It doesn't get better; it just ends.
No. Oh no. There's not another disc for you to put in. No. That's where it ends.
Yeah.
It ends right there, and yeah, it shocked me a bit. Anyway, all right, what's next?
All right, we got McLovin, two-parter. I'm 24 years old, and I generally love asking people what their favorite movie is, mainly people around my age, and the most frequent answer I get by a long shot is Interstellar. McConaughey even said that the most common thing fans tell him is that Interstellar is their favorite movie of all time. Any thoughts on why this movie resonates with so many people? Also, I can't explain the anger I felt when reading the nominations for Best Director. Gonna go self-inflict pain by watching Craven.
I can honestly say I have never spoke to somebody who has said my favorite movie of all time is Interstellar. I'm not saying that takes away from the experience you've had at all. I'm just saying for me, I've not had that. As a matter of fact, I remember when I first moved to LA, and I was dating around a lot, right? Because I'm a Canadian kid. I'm in LA, and I start dating, going on a lot of first dates with actresses / waitresses, and I always believed that you can tell a lot about a person, not good or bad, just you can tell a lot about a person when you ask them, what are your 3 favorite movies? Because that gives you a little bit of insight into how their mind works and what appeals to them and what moves them, what makes them laugh. Like you ask somebody, what's your 3 favorite movies? And you get a little bit of an insight, I think, into somebody's soul. So I used to do that a lot. And I still remember the first time I asked Ann that question. What are your 3 favorite movies? Big. What else? Big. Like, all right, you don't need any more. I'm like, all right, got it. All clear. I knew I liked her right away. So yeah, so I myself there, but I mean, the themes there's a lot going on in Interstellar, right? It's not my favorite Christopher Nolan film, but it's a powerful, powerful film, right? And I think there's a lot going on with it in the sense that it's both exciting and introspective, and there's a haunting score in it and beautiful performances. Yeah, there's a lot to love about it. All right, what's next?
Chino says, I'm a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, and I have been patiently waiting for any new info on the last Ronin movie, supposedly in the works. Please tell me all hope is not yet gone.
No, like when the acquisition was happening over at Paramount, it raised the question about whether projects like, because remember, what is the name of the latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? I keep forgetting
Mutant Mayhem?
Mutant Mayhem, thank you. Despite the fact that Mutant Mayhem didn't do great at the box office, it was wonderful and it got a really good response. And so they announced they were going to do a sequel, which is fantastic. And then we got the Ronin announcement and stuff like that. But when the acquisition and the merger was happening, it brought up some big questions about, well, will the new owners still let them do movies like that? From what I understand, I think those are still happening. I believe those are still happening.
I haven't heard anything otherwise to say it's not.
Yeah. So as far as I know, that is exactly what's happening. So here's hoping.
Yep.
All right. What's next?
JD says, hey, Jay and crew, love the show. Catch up when I can. I heard that one of your favorite Oscar nom songs was Falling Slowly from Once.
Yes.
Apologies if already mentioned, but the musical won multiple Grammys in 2012. Know who sang the female lead? CM from Penguin.
Oh, really?
Milioti. Kristen.
Bring that up again.
Wait, what do they mean, though? Do you know who sang the female lead from Once?
Did she?
At the event at the Grammys or something, or what? I'll have to look that up.
That's an interesting piece of trivia because I don't associate those two things at all. So yeah, do check that out. All right, what's next?
Okay, this one's directed at Rob, but we can answer it. Your Orlando Informer, welcome back to the show, Rob. We have missed you. As an owner of a large amount of physical media myself, I tossed on Knocked Up again for the first time in a while. And I love the old trailers that pop up for things you haven't seen in a long time. That's applicable to a lot of stuff.
Right, that was one of two, right?
The other one never came through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, I remember even back in the old VHS tape days.
I know.
I remember you'd pop in the VHS tape and it would actually have trailers on it. And like even in the early DVD days, they did that. Do they still do that today? Do they put trailers to other stuff on stuff?
They will do that. They will do that, but it's skippable. Like you can get past it if you don't want to do that stuff.
All right, interesting.
I swear, to this day I maintain that I had I think it was a DVD or a VHS, and one of the trailers was Titan AE. Remember that animated? Yeah. Okay, I swear on that. It was a different Titan AE. It was the animation, and every time they cut to the cockpit, it was live action.
I never heard of that.
And everyone I say that to thinks I'm crazy, but I know it because I would watch it over and over. And then they changed it up. But anyway.
All right, what's next?
Chris H says in a two-parter, finally saw Nosferatu, and oof, can't fully describe it, but thought it was kind of bad. I had high hopes since I've liked every Robert Eggers movie, plus positive reception. There were many technically great aspects of the movie, from set design, cinematography, Skarsgård, and costume makeup, but overall, it did not work at all for me. Wanted to bail so many times, but I stuck it out since I paid to see it. Art is subjective, but this one hit me differently than I expected.
I have to agree. Because I've been for years a huge Robert Eggers guy. Like Northman really cemented it for me. I've really enjoyed or was fascinated by, in the case of Lighthouse, like all of his films, and I was so excited about this one. And I'm in the minority. I didn't think it was all that great, to be honest with you. I thought Lily Rose Depp, who I think is a good actress. I think Lily Rose Depp is a good actress, but this was a mismatch for her. This wasn't the role for her. This movie didn't put her in a position to succeed. And I thought she came across as really cheesy and hammy, and I just got annoyed with the character. A lot of the logic stuff within the movie itself made no sense whatsoever. And it was just kind of plodded along. And yet everybody seemed to love it. And I respect that. That's But I'm just one of those people like you that it just didn't. I don't think it was a terrible movie by any stretch, but yeah, I'm with you. It just did not click for me. All right, what's next?
Okay, Anonymous says WB had greenlit a Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling Oceans movie before Barbie. I've read the good script, but have you heard anything about this project lately? WB seemingly got serious post Barbie, but I haven't heard anything lately.
No, that kind of came and went really fast, right? Like there was reports about that, if I remember correctly, and then they just poof disappeared. So it sounds like now they're pursuing, Ocean's 14 instead.
Yeah.
And if they did work on any of that previous thing, maybe some of that makes it over to this, maybe it doesn't. But I'm expecting probably within the next 60 days or so that we'll probably hear an official announcement about Ocean's 14. And I do hope David Leitch directs it, because if he does, that's what the report is right now. I think he'll bring a great, fresh new angle to it. That'll be something pretty exciting. All right, what's next?
Yo Mama says, so excited to be getting another mythical creature feature from Robert Eggers. He should do a horror movie about folktale or monster from different countries. And joke time, what do Nosferatu and Limp Bizkit have in common? They did it all for them.
They did all the. By the way, we didn't cover it today. Maybe we'll talk about it on Monday. But apparently, Robert Eggers is doing a new werewolf film. That's coming out next year.
Der Werwolf.
Werewolf is what it's coming out. But apparently, he's also signed on to do a Labyrinth remake. A Labyrinth remake or a Labyrinth sequel or something. We didn't have time to talk about it today. Maybe we'll talk about it on Monday, but he's keeping himself busy right now. All right, what's next?
Young Rhaenyra says, can confirm Sundance Now and AMC Plus are 100% worth churning a month of another streamer to check out. They actually acquire the rights to a lot of superb foreign shows made by international streaming platforms that don't have a U.S. parent streamer. For example, Austrian Mystery Black Snow is on season 2 right now, and Travis Fimmell's performance is even better than in Dune. Also, another upvote for Upright, starring Millie Alcock. There's a reason Joss Whedon called it his favorite show since Fleabag.
Really?
Upright.
You know what? This is now 4 or 5 people who have written in to say we should check out this Millie Alcock show. You know what? Okay, you sold me. You sold me. It's it. I'm sold. I'm going to go and check this out. What's it called again? Upright? All right. I'm going to go check this out. I've had so many of you guys writing in and telling me I should do it. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to go check it out. I'll start this weekend. I'll give it a check out. All right. What's next?
Okay. Michael from Sweden says, did Saturday Night get 0 nominations due to bad campaigning, or wasn't it Oscar worthy in your opinion? I could see it in at least cinematography and editing. Bumping out Emilia Perez. Acting was also great, but too much competition from other movies.
Listen, only about 1% of movies get Oscar nominations. Listen, Saturday Night I thought was great.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I think I had it in my top 10 list of the year too. But am I surprised it didn't get any Oscar nominations? No. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if it did manage to get 1 or 2 here, but remember, only about 1%. So it's not like, oh, any good movie gets Oscar nominations. And if it doesn't, we go, well, what went wrong? Well, nothing went wrong. It's a really good movie. I enjoyed it a lot, had it in my top 10, but I don't have any problems with it not getting any Oscar nominations. That's perfectly okay. I mean, the editing was excellent. And yes, I would have replaced Emilia Perez, but other than a couple of the performing nominations, I would have replaced every Emilia Perez nomination with something else. So no, nothing really, no big problem here. It's a great movie, totally fun movie. Could have had a couple of nominations, but it didn't.
That's how I was with Air the year before,
Which one?
Air.
Which one was Air again?
About the Nikes and Jordan.
Oh, yes. Yes. That was the Amazon movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I really liked that film. I thought Matt Damon was great in it. Jason Bateman was great in it. But yeah, I was totally okay with it not getting nominations. I was fine too. All right, what's next?
Okay, Ray the Monk says, after the reactions of the Oscar noms, I'm wondering how the Academy votes. I assume the voting members get screeners for them to vote. I was talking to a filmmaker, and they still have to invite members to come to the screenings. Not a lot will show up. They do get screeners. Yep.
They have now it used to be back in the day, they used to actually have to physically mail out screeners. that is a very insecure thing to do because, you know, with piracy and all that kind of stuff, right? And eventually, I know because a lot of the studios would send me screeners. And eventually what would happen is I'd get these screeners and my name would be burned into the video so that if anybody tried to, or if my copy of the movie found its way onto BitTorrent, they would know exactly where it came from, right? And they started doing more stuff like that. But now that's not the thing. Now they literally have an online portal for Academy members that they can go and just click on and watch the movies. If they want to watch it again, get refreshed on it. Maybe it's one they haven't had a chance to see yet, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's their new system now. It's a simple online click and watch sort of thing.
All right. Matan says the snub of Look Back at the Oscars makes me suspect that the Academy has a Ghibli bias where they're afraid to watch anime beyond Ghibli because it's weird, quote unquote. The only non-Ghibli anime that was nominated at the Oscars so far is Mirai. You know, I do wonder, could there be like an...
I don't know. Hollywood seems to celebrate Studio Ghibli a lot. I don't think Hollywood dislikes Studio Ghibli
No,
at all.
he's saying beyond Ghibli. They don't look beyond Ghibli.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So what were you saying?
And I was wondering, you know, we have an international like feature-length category. Could there be an international feature-length animation category?
I don't even think there should be an animation category, period. Now, when people hear me say that, they think, John, you don't think animated movies are worth having a category? Oh, no. Quite the opposite. The very existence of the best animation category is a slap in the face disrespect to animation. You want to know why they created the best animated category? So they wouldn't have to bother actually nominating them for Best Picture. Like I was back in the movie blog days, but I remember there was a stretch of like 8 years where 6 out of those 8 years, the number one critically rated film of the year was an animated film, and none of them got nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. 1 time, happens. 2 times, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, there's a problem. And so, and still to this day, correct me if I'm wrong, but I still believe to this day, there's only been 3 animated movies ever in history nominated for Best Picture. The first one was Beauty and the Beast. And the other 2, I believe, was Toy Story 3 and Up. That's it. In all the history of cinema, 3 animated films nominated for Best, not winning, nominated for Best Picture.
And I think Inside Out 2 could have competed.
I think I think Wild Robot. In a world where there's 10 movies nominated for Best Picture, I absolutely think Wild Robot probably should have gotten a nomination. I'm not going to call it a snub because I don't think it had any chance to win, so that's fine. But the point is, they created the Best Animated category as a kiddie table. They created it as a kiddie table. The grown-ups will be over here, but oh, look, you get your own table. Isn't that cute? And it was a way for them to not have to bother with animated films. Because look, we gave them their own little category. So anyway, that's just kind of my take on it, the whole thing. All right, what's next?
No Clever Name says, John, I'm all sorts of confused. The other day, Variety said Robert Eggers will be doing Werewolf as his next movie. But then just yesterday said that he's also doing a Labyrinth remake. Please, John, please help me make sense of this. Which movie is it?
Many directors will have more than their next movie lined up. Right? And remember, Werewolf comes out next year.
Yeah.
So he can actually get working on this Labyrinth thing in late 2026, early 2027. So, yeah, I mean, and again, like a lot of directors already know what their next 2 or 3 projects are going to be. So it's really not that big of a deal at this point. All right, what's next?
Brian says, hey, Campea crew, might you agree that John M. Chu was a snub for Best Director? I understand your love for Denis, but the performance he got out of Arrivo Grande and his cast was amazing. But what a year 2024 was in movies. What's your thoughts?
No, I wouldn't call that one a snub. I think he did a great job with the movie. And I don't think he should have not been nominated. Don't get me wrong. If John M. Chu's name had been listed on there, I would have been perfectly okay with that. He did a wonderful job directing the movie. A really great job. Absolutely. And And yes, the performance out of Arrivo was great and Ariana Grande was great. But no, I don't think it's on the same level as Denis Villeneuve. I mean, that a lot of Wicked to me was, number one, the music, which was pre-existing. Like that music is already there, pre-existing. The art direction was insanely gorgeous, giving it that real golden era of Hollywood kind of feel and look. The singing of Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. Now, of course, with all that, you need a great director to pull it all together. And John M. Chu is really, remember, he's gone from that kid who's directing Justin Bieber videos to being like truly now a guy that I get excited about when he has a new project coming out. But I'm okay with him not getting one of the nomination spots. I'm okay with it. I think he'll get them. He'll get them. If he keeps going on the trajectory he is, he'll get them. But I'm okay with the fact that he didn't get one. All right, what's next?
Redeemer says, if Disney was going to fire Kathleen Kennedy, they probably would have done it by now. So my question is, do you think they will renew her contract when the time comes?
I think she will be there. Now, remember, I thought she was going to be gone at the end of 2023. Or was it 2024? Anyway. I think here's the thing. I don't think Bob Iger, whose number one thing is just getting the house in order, is going to get rid of Kathleen Kennedy at this point. Because I think you're right. I think if Bob Iger was going to get rid of her, he would have got rid of her by now.
Yeah. And she just has through the, 2025?
I'm not sure.
It says through second quarter. So that's too soon.
Bob Iger's leaving very soon.
Yeah.
Right? Bob Iger is leaving very, very soon. I think he will leave it to the next CEO to get rid of Kathleen Kennedy. So I hope I'm wrong. Like maybe Iger says, you know what? I need to make sure the next CEO has a clean slate. So I'll get rid of Kathleen Kennedy and then the new CEO can come in and not have to do it themselves. And then they'll have the ability and freedom to hire whoever they want to oversee Lucasfilm. So maybe that, but I'm guessing it'll be, I'll let the next CEO make the decision on this. So my guess is we're not going to see Kathleen Kennedy out of there until Bob Iger retires again.
All right.
All right. What's next?
Niche Capiche says, I was surprised Conclave didn't receive a nomination for Best Cinematography. I thought it was shot beautifully.
It was absolutely shot beautifully. I think the thing that would have worked against it, even with the cinematographers in the Academy, was it was all indoors.
Very tight shots.
Yep. All indoors, all very tight shots, still shot beautifully, looked great. But I think the cinematographers are looking, it's like there's acting roles where an actor can do a great job in the role, but if the script itself doesn't give the actor a lot to do, or doesn't give the actor the opportunity to really show a range, because not all characters give you that opportunity, right? Then they'll be overlooked for acting awards from the other actors. I think the same is true with cinematography. If a movie doesn't give the cinematographer the opportunity to show their range and what they can do with a camera with beautiful shots and all that kind of stuff, it might make them be overlooked. So
right.
I get why it didn't get it, because I don't think it is a beautifully shot film, but it didn't really give the cinematographer as a movie the opportunity to really shine. Right. So I'm okay with that. All right, what's next?
DJ Dark says, hello, with the Netflix price increase, I think their plan is to raise it to like $35, but when they announce that, introduce a 12-month contract with $24 or $25 with a 4K plan. That way they can say you'll save $120, locking the price with a contract.
I've been saying for a long time, that's coming. The locked in, remember, the number one enemy of the streaming services right now is churn. I'm a member, and then when my show is done, I cancel my membership until my show comes back, or until the next show I want to watch in 3 or 4 months, right? Churn is the number one thing that all streamers are trying to combat. And I've told people for a while that we are going to get the 12-month commitment is going to come. It's going to come. And they'll offer it as a gift. When they come, it'll come looking like a gift. Oh, look, we're going to save you money by giving you the opportunity to do what you were probably going to do anyway, which is to be our customer for the next 12 months. You just lock yourself in and look how much money you'll save. See, Jonathan, here's the thing. They did the same Trojan horse thing with us with the ad-supported tiers.
And then they raised that.
They came to us and said, oh, look, we'll give you Netflix for this much cheaper rate if you'll watch commercials. You know what? We used to fucking get cable networks for free with commercials.
Yeah.
But okay, you pay us a subscription and you watch commercials. Oh my God, but look at how much cheaper it is to have our ad support. Guess what they just did? They just raised the price of the ad supported tier as well. And they're going to continue raising it. So they're going to come in, you mark my words, they're going to come in with like, oh, you know, for all of you dedicated Netflix subscribers, we're going to give you a gift. Commit to 12 months, sign here, and look how much money you'll save. But guess what? Once you do, they're going to start raising those prices too. There's a break point is coming. I don't know where that point is, but there's going to be a breaking point when the consumers will finally say, this is too expensive and this is too much. And it might be the whole, again, they'll trick the consumers into it. They'll make it look like a gift to capture your soul. But anyway, we'll see how that all goes. All right, what's next?
Oh no, it's Josiah says, I have to put you on your radar, the show The Promised Land. It's a mockumentary adapting the story from the Bible of Moses leading the 12 tribes to the Promised Land. The pilot episode is on YouTube. It's hilarious, made for fellow Bible college graduates. Almost sounds like a Monty Python style
It
thing.
does kind of.
Life of Brian.
Hearing that it's a YouTube thing doesn't give me a lot of
Yeah,
it doesn't give me a lot of faith. So I don't know. Maybe sometime I'll check it out. All right, what's next?
Anish says, damn, really bummed that I love The Brutalist as much as I did. I don't want to tell people in fear that I'll be looked at as pretentious. No, tell them you enjoy it.
No. Listen, I think Brutalist is a wonderful film. Again, the second half of it started to weigh on me a bit. Like I wasn't having as much fun watching it, the second part. But I still think it's a brilliantly made movie, wonderful movie. And you should never have to, number one, explain yourself or feel bad about liking a movie you like. You like it, you go. I don't care if it's Craven. If you like Craven, I'll disagree with you, but I'll think it's great. If you liked it, I'll be super happy you got joy out of it. Don't worry about it. If you liked it, and you tell people you liked it. All right, what's next?
All right, we got a $20 tip here from Donovan.
Oh, thank you, Donovan, for supporting us on that level, man.
Yeah, first time question, long time listener.
Thank you.
Rumor has it that Downey will continue as Doom post Secret Wars. Thoughts and bring on the filthy.
Well, whoever is telling you that rumor has no idea what they're talking
know.
about. Now, look, am I sitting here definitively telling you Robert Downey Jr. won't continue as Doom after Secret Wars? No, I don't know. But whoever made up that rumor doesn't know either. So just ignore that. Is it possible? Sure, it is. Do I expect it? No, I think this is it. They're going to do Doomsday and Secret Wars, and then he'll be done. But it is possible. But these are like rumors like these come out all the time, where something that could conceivably happen, they spread it as a rumor is happening, and then they'll look like they were right if the 20% of the time it actually sticks. I remember this one time, this one outlet. I'm not going to be too specific because I don't want to throw anybody on the bus. But this one outlet, like there was a movie coming out and all of us expected that in this movie, X would happen. And so this one outlet tried to make it look like they had the inside scoop. We can report that X is going to happen in that upcoming future movie. It's like, so you're exclusively reporting the thing that all of us think is going to happen in the movie is happening in the movie. Well, way to throw the spaghetti. Now you got like an 85% chance of looking like you're right. You know, it happens. So could it happen? It's possible, but I highly doubt it. All right, what's next?
Okay, Sir Z says, news about the MJ movie is really bad. That guy should look in the man in the mirror and then beat it. It should be human nature to make sure things like this doesn't happen. It's black and white. They just had to remember the time when it happened. You're all welcome.
First of all, I don't know what was better, the message or you reading it. That's a tough one. Yeah, oh my God. I still cannot get over. Oopsie. We forgot that kid's not allowed to be in the movie. What? What? You could have told us this a year ago when we were shooting the film. I can just totally see that conversation. Hey, yeah, you haven't started shooting that Michael movie yet, have you? Well, yeah, we're done shooting. We've wrapped. We're in post-production. Ooh, yeah. That's going to make this conversation awkward. Anyway.
Oh, Tor just gifted some.
Oh, Tornado is back, gifting more memberships now. Thank you, Tor, so much, man. That's incredibly generous of you, dude. And welcome to all the new members.
Yep.
All right. What's next?
Anonymous says the author of the article written about Michael Jackson isn't exactly credible. A couple months ago, he lied about the movie not addressing the allegations. It was later debunked, and also the movie to stop at the first allegations, which it's not.
First of all, they don't lie, right? These guys, what they do is they pass on the information that they've been given. They don't lie. Puck is actually quite a reliable source. And when other outlets, like let's put it this way, IndieWire is a very reliable outlet. And what a lot of the bigger outlets, what the real reliable outlets will do, things like Hollywood Reporter and Variety and IndieWire. I'll give you an example. When I broke the story that Keanu Reeves was going to be the voice of Shadow in Sonic 3, Variety and the Hollywood Reporter didn't just go, well, John Campea said, so let's write a story about it. No, what happens with the bigger legit outlets, they'll hear that. So John Campea is saying that Keanu Reeves is going to be the voice of Shadow. They don't then go and write a story. They then get on the phones and start talking to their contacts. And then once they verify that what John Campea was saying was true, then they ran the story with it. So what I'm telling you is that like IndieWire and stuff like that aren't going to just go, we heard somebody say this, let's write a story. That's what the Gus's Gas Station Movie Review.fart websites do. It's not what they do. So I guarantee you IndieWire didn't run this before double checking with their own sources. So yeah, you can, I feel pretty good that you can believe that this is what happened with the Michael movie. All right, what's next?
Okay, Anonymous follows up. And also the movie going through all his life, they've been working on this film since 2017. The estate just overlooked this. Branca is a savvy businessman.
Not as savvy as you might think.
Yeah.
And if, like IndieWire's reporting, that the estate has agreed to pay for the reshoots. Yeah, so not as savvy as you think. Yeah. All right, what's next?
We got Sam Fisher. Have they ever rescinded a nomination and replaced it with another?
That's a really good question.
I have to look into that. Not that I know, but I'd have to look into it. I mean, there's decades of this show that existed far beyond me.
Decades and decades and decades. I mean, this is a thing that's been long before my parents were born. I mean, that is an excellent question. I do not know. I don't know the answer to that. If any of you guys do know, let me know or email me. I'd be really, really curious to know the answer to that. So I agree, Jonathan. My answer is, to the best of my knowledge, no, but I'd be really interested to find out if it has in Hollywood history. All right. What's next?
Okay, redubbing Michael says, could the filmmakers on Michael go to the route of dubbing over any time the family and child's name are used in post recordings to fictional names? Reshoots needed, of course, but salvaging some of the footage at least.
Nope, because you would never convince a court. You would lose in court. Yeah. The family would take the movie and the Michael Jackson estate to court and say, this was clearly, they changed the name, but this is clearly based on us. You can't pretend it wasn't, right? So no, you can't just do some little trickery of, instead of whatever, it's Mickey's Ben Nicky. No, it just doesn't work. So no, they can't do that. No. What you'd have to do is you'd have to totally not just change the name of the kid. You'd have to say the circumstances were completely different. You'd have to make it completely unlike that kid. And that's just something you can't get away with.
Yeah. Oh, thanks to Swarthy.
Swarthy just sent in like a $50 support thanks tip. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. I swear that's incredibly generous of you, man. Thank you for supporting us on that level. It's, you know what? I appreciate everybody who sends in like tips and questions and stuff like that, but when they just do it just because they want to be supportive is really nice. So thank you so much for that, Swarthy. Appreciate that, man.
And then Redubbing follows up. Well, that's what I get for submitting a question before the end of the segment. Literally, you immediately addressed my question. Anyways, happy Friday.
No worries, man. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
All right. Bry Guy, what's more likely, Disney Plus making an adult-oriented animated Star Wars series like Harley Quinn or another attempt at live-action Powerpuff Girls at Warner Brothers? Probably the Powerpuff Girls, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, I don't want a Harley Quinn Star Wars universe kind of show. I love
weird.
Harley Quinn, but I don't want a Harley Quinn Star Wars universe show. I really don't. So I don't see them doing that. I also don't think they're going to do a live action Powerpuff. You guys remember they were on track to do a live action Powerpuff Girls. One of the girls from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the one who played Quake, I believe she was supposed to be the lead in it, if I'm not mistaken. I forget the actress's name. And then it went away, and I kind of feel like every month that passes, I feel like Powerpuff Girls gets less and less relevant. So I'm going to guess neither happens, but if you told me one of them was going to happen, I would say that one. All right, what's next?
Jake says the MJ community is going crazy right now. If you go to Twitter, I try not to, saying it was fake and had to look into it. I mean, people are going to be outraged no matter what.
Yeah. Again, I don't see what there is to be outraged about. I mean, look, if somebody made a technical mistake, they made a technical mistake. It's stupid. It's idiotic, but it's fixable. So we'll see what happens. All right. What's next?
All right. Forbidden says, okay, John, your physical media topics are starting to sound like a broken Blu-ray player. Just messing. But seriously, other than physical media, what else could possibly be obsolete in the near future?
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I almost feel
Keys?
like what's that?
Keys?
Well, I mean, keys, I honestly, 100% true. I don't have a physical key of anything. My front door is thumbprint. And failing that, it's got a code I can put in.
Right.
But other than that, it's a thumbprint. My car, my phone is phone. Yeah, my phone is my key. The car knows when my phone is there and the door will be unlocked. That's one of the cool things I love about my car. I never have to lock or unlock the door of my car. It just knows if it's me standing there or not because of my phone. I literally don't have a key. So a key is a good thing, but we've kind of reached the point in technology where it's now like everything is iterative. It feels like minor improvements on things we already have.
Yeah.
I know everybody for like 7 years, people have been saying the VR stuff was going to replace a lot of home entertainment, and it never has. I never thought it would, and it never has. Even the whole Apple device, what is it called again? The Vision Quest?
Oh gosh, yeah, I can't remember.
The Vision Pro is what it's called. I loved what Marquise Brownlee, MKBHD, said about it. When he got his hands on that Vision Pro, he said, "This is the coolest device that nobody needs."
Yeah.
And he was right. Like, I remember we were talking about the Vision Pro and I said, I have not seen one thing in any of the pieces about this addressing how the Vision Pro solves a problem. What can I do with the Vision Pro that I cannot currently do? Because everything I saw on the Vision Pro is like, look, this thing you can do on your laptop, you can do on the Vision Pro. And look, this thing you can do on your iPad, you can do on the Vision Pro. And look, this thing you can do on your smartphone, you can do on the Vision Pro. This thing you can do with your TV, you can do with the Vision Pro. But nobody ever, and I asked a couple people, nobody was ever able to tell me one thing that I cannot currently do that I could do if I had the Vision Pro. And which is one of the big, why I love that Marquise Brownlee quote. It's the coolest device, because it is cool. The coolest device that literally nobody needs. And so we're kind of at that place in technology now. So I don't know where we go from here, to be honest with you. It's a really good question. All right, what's next?
Mr. I says, here's one thing I dislike about the all-digital future. I purchased a new hard drive to replace a failed one on my Xbox. I went to re-download games that I purchased digitally. in the past and found several were no longer available. Lost a couple $100.
That's one of the big drawbacks. Now, like I can say to me, I have not yet once, just talking personal experience, I have never run into a situation where I have lost one of my purchased piece of digital things.
Yeah.
Never once. I have lost plenty of my physical media things. Plenty. Through either being damaged, loaned, lent out, misplaced, whatever. I have lost infinitely more physical media things than I have digital media things. But it is a reality, like, right? I could buy a piece of media on Amazon. This happened to a few people, and then Amazon lost the right to provide that to people, and all of a sudden it's gone. And the law is going to need to catch up. The law is going to need to catch up that will say when a consumer, like a consumer protection law that says if a consumer buys a digital piece of property, then there has to be made a way that will always have to be made available to that consumer. It's a simple law, and I think the government's going to have to come up with something like that. All right, what's next?
All right, Home Joe says, hello, John. I was smoking my sticky icky, and I was thinking, do you think James Gunn's Superman will be like Joss Whedon's take on Justice League? It looks kind of the same in a way, but I hope not, because I'd rather have a dark universe than a light one if that's the case.
I don't care about
an overall tone.
Yeah, I know. I honestly don't give a crap about whether it's dark or light. The only thing that matters is it good or bad? That's it.
Yeah.
And neither one increases its potential of being good or bad. I've seen darker tone movies that suck and darker tone movies that are brilliant. I've seen the lighter tone movies that suck and lighter tone movies that are brilliant. So I expect James Gunn to do James Gunn. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, I expect to see the things that we got in Guardians of the Galaxy and in his Suicide Squad, which is I expect to see some things that are traumatic and some things that are dark and some things that are heavy, and that those will be juxtaposed against things that are bright and things that are joyful and things that are fun. I think we're going to have all of that in there. The key is finding the right balance. And he found that balance with Guardians, and he found that balance with Suicide Squad. So I believe that's what we're going to get. Again, I don't care if it's light or dark. I care if it's good or bad, and we'll see how they turn out. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Swanson Burgundy says, on the subject of huge budgets for some movies, as you previously said, that one reason for the slow death of theaters, it's led to higher ticket costs, struggling theaters, etc. So studios monitoring their spending is, on paper, advantageous to us. Part 2. High quality VFX could be achieved with a lower cost. Reshoots being planned ahead saves money. So it is possible. So what actually is the trade-off that we can't see? Longer times between releases, overworked VFX houses, something else? I'm curious.
Well, I've always talked for a long time that I've been saying for years, ever since I was doing AMC, I said the studios have to get their spending under control. Now, whenever I bring that up, inevitably I get a chorus of people saying to me, John, why do you care? It's not your money. Yes, it is. And it's your money too. It's all systemic. It's all connected. The more money the studios spend on making movies, the more money they have to recoup to be profitable. And in order to make even more money, they will then inevitably pressure the movie theaters to increase the ticket prices because they're going to want an increased take, and that will force the movie theaters to comply and raise ticket prices. And it all becomes cyclical, right? Yes, movies definitely did, but here's the thing. It's gotten cheaper and cheaper to do visual effects. Meanwhile, the movies get more and more expensive. And this is why when another topic comes up, everybody looks at me and says, well, why do you care, John? It's not your money. Pay the man. Like when a story comes out that like some actor got paid $30 million to do a movie, and I say something along the lines of, hey, unless the letters DR are in front of your name and you're saving people's lives and making people who are in a motorcycle accident able to walk again, you shouldn't be making $30 million a year. And whenever I bring that up, inevitably, The whole cacophony of the film is just, no, that guy's totally worth it. Give him all the money he wants. You pay that man. But then in the next breath, they'll go, why is my movie ticket so expensive? Because you don't understand that it's all connected to each other. It's all systemic. And so not only do they need to reduce how much they spend on the movies, you reduce how much you spend on the movies. I'm sorry, but no fucking movie actor deserves $30 million for 2 months of work. And you want to talk about above the line costs. I've talked to people, I know filmmakers that like literally one film's budget, half of the film's budget was Dwayne The Rock Johnson's salary. Half of the budget.
And it didn't include bottles.
And it didn't include bottles. All those bottles, refillable bottles. So yeah, it's something that they absolutely have to keep it. Because if they keep just spiraling out of control the cost of these movies, it will always, guys, listen to this. It will always, that cost, that expense, that extra budget, the price tag for it will always be passed on to you and me. Always. Every time. So in a way, yeah, when you hear that such and such actor is going to get paid $25 million for a movie, that is you paying for it. That's you paying for it. Me too. So yeah, there's a lot of things that the movie industry needs to do, but getting their spending under control is definitely one of them as well. All right, what's next?
All right. TUN says, I was wondering what your definition of a superhero is. To me, it's someone with superpowers. Sam Wilson doesn't have superpowers, so I would call him a hero. Just not super, which begs the question, how many superheroes are in this movie?
Is Batman not a superhero?
I guess to him, he's not. He's a hero.
I mean, listen, that's a question we've had since we were children, right? It's if somebody doesn't have any powers, is Iron Man not a superhero? Iron Man doesn't have any superpowers. He just has some gadgets. He has toys. Batman doesn't have any superpowers. Sam doesn't have any superpowers. Hawkeye doesn't have any superpowers. Black Widow doesn't have any superpowers. But that's a question we've been wrestling with since we were children. What is the difference between a hero and a superhero? Is superpowers the definition? I'm not sure. If it is, then Green Arrow isn't a superhero. Green Lantern isn't a superhero. He just had somebody give him a magic ring that if anybody had it, they could do the things he does to a degree, right? So I don't know. What is our proper definition of between a superhero and a hero? Don't know. It's a good question. But again, it's a question we've been wrestling with since we were kids and we will continue to wrestle with.
Right.
All right. What's next?
Petty says some reviews came out for our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. They have outstanding praise for the show. Just got super excited.
Yeah, I still don't care. I don't care. I think it looks dumb. I think it looks so bad, but that's just me. Hey, listen. And again, I always want to remind myself, I thought the same thing about Harley Quinn. I thought it looked terrible. And today I love that show. So maybe that'll happen to me with Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. All right. What's next?
All right. Scale says, hi, John and crew. I love your Oscar nomination show. I'm trying to better appreciate cinema. Could you explain the difference between best director and screenplay? Understanding this could help me appreciate great scripts, actors, directors. Thanks. Well, I mean, the screenplay is the writer.
Yeah.
That's the writer.
All right. Okay. So it's like asking what's the difference between the produce delivery man and the chef. They're two completely different things. Right? A director takes a script that somebody wrote. Sometimes it's a script they wrote themselves, but that not often. I mean, it happens, but it's not often. The director takes the script, is now responsible for kind of trying to bring that story to life in the best way that they can. The script is the actual people who sit down and write the script and write the story. Now, it can be said, and it has been said, and it's very true. You can take the same script and give it to two different directors, and you'll get two very different feeling movies. So yeah, the script is literally the screenplay that your movie is based on. The director is the person who then takes a script and tries to bring it to life and breathe it to life in the best way that they can. So that's the best way that I would define it. All right, what's next?
Forbidden says, totally agree with people. That people don't look beyond Studio Ghibli films. Give Comics Waves films a shot. Any of them. They totally I think he means revere.
Rival.
Or they
totally
rival. They totally rival Ghibli, but I guess Comics doesn't have the same relationships with Hollywood like Ghibli does.
I've honestly never heard of them. It's one of those situations where I probably know one or two of their movies, but I have no idea of the name of the company behind them. So maybe they need to hire a new PR department so people, I guess, know who they are. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Billie Jean says, "Hey John, I have a question. How can we compare movies based on box office? Inflation is extreme and ticket prices are different over the years. How does it work? Love the show."
I feel like I have to answer this every month.
I know.
All right. So look, I'll say this one thing. There is no perfect system. All right. Let's just be clear. There is no perfect system or way to compare box office results from era to era. However, the biggest mistake and the dumbest thing you can do is say, well, you take inflation into account and you say, well, today's dollar would have been worth these dollars in 1984. So just do the math of the inflation difference, and that's how you compare them. And I want to scream every time I see somebody do that, because that is not how you do it at all. Because inflation and the value of the dollar is a variable, but it is only one of dozens of variables. And what you cannot do is cherry pick which variable do you want to apply. Because here's the logic fallacy of wanting to apply inflation. The logic fallacy of wanting to apply inflation is that you make an assumption. Okay, here's the assumption. Well, this movie in 1983 made $75 million. So today, in today's dollar value, that means that movie is a $195 million movie. Here's the logic fallacy of that. You are making an assumption that if that movie that was made in 1983 that made arguably $75 million, your assumption is that if you took that movie from 1983 and just dropped it in theaters today, that it still would have sold the same number of tickets that it did in 1983. 1983, when the movie industry wasn't competing against streaming services, when the movie industry wasn't competing against video games for expendable dollars, when it wasn't competing against 5 times the amount of releases that there are today as opposed to that time. By applying inflation, you make the assumption that if you took that movie and dropped it today, it would have sold the exact same number of tickets that it did then. And that is fucking wrong. Because today, movies that get released have to face a whole cacophony of challenges and obstacles and hurdles and competition that movies released in different eras never had to deal with. If that movie back in 1983 sold 7 million tickets, it wouldn't sell 7 million tickets today. And that's the fallacy. That is why I tell people that you cannot cherry pick one variable like inflation and ignore all the other variables. You either come up with some mathematical equation to take into consideration all of the variables, which is impossible, or you take none of them in and just take them at face value. Again, that is also not a perfect system, but it's far better than the logic fallacy of trying to apply inflation. Yep. People think they sound smart when they're doing that. Well, if you take the 1991 film and adjust it for inflation, it would... No. You're actually a moron because you're making an assumption that is preposterous to assume. Anyway, Jonathan, you were going to say something?
No, well, just like then people will often say like, yeah, I agree, but then you could just, what you should do is just count seats sold. No, because sensibilities are different too. So you wouldn't have sold that many seats probably today as you did then.
Yeah. Like if that movie in 1983 had to compete against the way the video game market is taking people's expendable income, if you were having to compete with getting over strikes and pandemics, if you had to compete with streaming services, if you had to compete with X so many more movies being released every month now. If you had to compete against all that, that movie in 1983 that sold 7 million tickets might have sold 3 million tickets. And again, you just can't do that. So just going like, well, it made this dollar amount then, today would have been worth this, so that's how you compare it. Yes, if you're stupid, but the world is more complicated than that. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Here's our final tip. Ryan says, hey, gang, I just finished Better Call Saul, and wow, Michael Mando as Nacho Varga blew my mind away. I think it's a shame we haven't seen him as Scorpion since his appearance in Homecoming. Do you think we will ever see him in that universe again?
No.
He's a great actor, though.
Yeah, I definitely thought, I mean, at the end of Homecoming, I definitely thought he and Michael Keaton, I definitely thought we'd get both of them back.
Figured he was going to be Scorpion.
But we never did.
Yeah.
And I don't think we are at this point. I think they're just moving on and moving forward. So, yeah, probably not. By the way, you know what? I never finished Better Call Saul.
I haven't either.
I got well into it and I really liked it. But then for some reason, I don't know why. I don't know when exactly I stopped. And I finished one of the seasons and then I just never got on to the next season. I have to finish it at some point because a lot of people tell me it's just as good as Breaking Bad. Mm-hmm. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. I want to thank, of course, Chris Carr, who was in here with us today. Always good to have her here. She'll, of course, be back again next week. You know what? Next week, we're going to have our first show in a long time that we have both Rob and Chris on.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. Yeah. And, of course, Jonathan Voico for being here.
See you guys next week.
Thanks a lot, guys. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.